welcome back to the deep dive. So for today, I want you to imagine we're all sitting around a campfire, the sun's gone down, it's dark, and we're about to tell some stories. Except these aren't just stories.
No, they're not.
We are digging into 18 unique first-hand accounts. And these things they're raw, they're personal, they span decades, from the stormy Oregon coast all the way to these lonely Colorado mountains.
And our mission here, just so you know what we're doing, is a little different. We are not trying to prove or disprove anything.
Right.
We're treating these accounts as narratives of intense personal trauma, of confusion. We're looking for the patterns.
Of common threads.
Exactly. The psychological threads, the environmental ones. What ties these incredibly different experiences together? We want to understand the depth of the experience itself.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Because when you really get down to it, the common thread isn't just, I saw a light in the sky.
No, not at all.
It's that moment of violation. The moment the world you thought you knew, the physics you learned in school, just completely shatters right in front of your eyes.
That's the focus, that breaking point.
So we're going to break this down by theme. First, we'll look at the violation of the natural world, then the invasion of the mind, and finally, the scars these things leave behind.
We should probably start where we feel the safest, right? In the predictable rules of the sky, of nature.
Yeah, gravity works, planes fly in straight lines.
Exactly. But these encounters, they don't just bend the rules, they seem to actively manipulate them. They play with physics.
Let's start this off with Emily's account from Portland. Now get this, she's described as super analytical, a storm watcher.
Right, so she knows what she's looking at.
For years, she's watched planes on the flight path for PDX. Same altitude, same direction, same routine. It's her baseline for reality.
It's predictable.
Totally. So one night, there's this massive storm cloud rolling in over the river. A normal plane passes by, does its thing, disappears. Everything is normal.
And that's when things start to get strange.
Yeah.
Emily notes that right as that normal plane is gone, the storm itself it goes quiet.
The thunder, the lightning, all of it.
All of it just stops abruptly. The sky gets darker, but the storm is still there. It's just this localized patch of complete unnatural stillness.
And out of that silence, that's when the light appears.
Yes, and not from under the cloud like you'd expect.
No, that's the thing. It comes from deep inside the storm cloud itself, and it starts moving in a dead straight line, right toward her house.
She compares it to a plane's landing light, but it's just wrong.
It's all wrong. First, it's just one single solid white light.
And the location, the trajectory, it's impossible for an approach to PDX. She figures it's maybe 3,000 to 5,000 feet up. A commercial jet would never, ever be doing that right there.
So her analytical brain's already screaming, right? She goes out on her deck trying to make it make sense.
And that's when it gets even worse.
Yep, she confirms it. No navigation lights, no flashing red and green beacons, which are, legally required.
Mandatory.
Just that one solid white light. And then it starts to mess with her eyes.
The color begins to shift. It goes from that bright white to a faint green, then to this really striking blue, and then back to white again.
You call this visual dissonance, right? Mm-hmm. What exactly does that mean? Is in her head, or is the object actually doing something to the light?
Well, that's what's so fascinating. It sounds like both.
Okay.
Emily described it as trying to look at something through a really thick, warped piece of glass. Like her eyes couldn't focus on the right layer of the atmosphere.
So the object might be creating its own little environmental bubble. And that's what's distorting the light.
It's a solid theory. That kind of optical distortion would be a physical byproduct. It would make it hard to process cognitively. Your eye and your brain are fighting each other, and that just adds to this profound sense of unease. It feels wrong.
And the climax of this whole thing is just, it breaks physics. It doesn't turn, it doesn't land, it doesn't fade away. She watches it stop, and then it just reverses. Mm-hmm. It moves backward, slowly, on that same perfect line, right back into the cloud.
And as it disappears back inside, it lights up the whole interior of the storm cloud like a ghost lantern.
Chilling. And the second it's gone,
the thunder and lightning come crashing back, full intensity.
So the implication is, the object was actively suppressing the storm's energy while it was there.
Which is, that's a fundamental break in our understanding of energy, propulsion, you name it, localized weather control.
We see another kind of natural law violation on the Oregon coast back in '94. the Pacific City bioluminescence story.
Right, and here you have a witness who is just desperately trying to rationalize what he's seeing.
He calls them lightning bugs at first, right?
Yeah.
Just to kind of keep his sanity.
He does, but the reality is much more unsettling. He first sees this small swarm, maybe 20 or 30 of them.
Okay.
And they're these solid, steady, just stunning emerald green lights. And they're silent, hovering in the trees about 20 feet away.
But there are no fireflies on the Oregon coast, right?
Yeah.
Especially not ones that glow steady like that.
Exactly. The impossibility is immediate. And the next night, it gets even more intense.
The lights are back.
Yeah.
But this time, they're floating 100 feet below him, out over the beach.
So he chases them. He runs down this steep hill, and they just zip out over the ocean waves, stop, and then they do something that just defies, well, everything. Chemistry, biology.
They drop straight down into the Pacific Ocean.
And they don't go out. He can see them glowing under the surface of that freezing cold water.
Wow.
Just think about that. To maintain that bright, stable light and move as a coherent swarm from air into pressurized freezing salt water, that's a technology or a biology that is completely unknown to us.
And this is where the emotional impact really hits. The report says that watching physics just fail in front of him, he was on the verge of tears.
It wasn't fear of an attack.
No, it was just the sheer emotional overload of seeing something so fundamentally impossible. It's like his brain just couldn't handle it. Awe and terror all mixed together.
And that's a critical reaction. When the universe suddenly stops following the rules you've relied on your whole life, the result is often that kind of emotional short circuit.
Which brings us to the Circle of Stars near Lewiston, Idaho. And this one is about how that broken reality can just shatter a family.
This was a camping trip. You have a father, a guy who knows his constellations, calm, knowledgeable. He's night fishing with his kids.
Then his youngest brother points up at the sky.
Yep. He sees this perfect, still circle of lights, way too low, way too structured to be stars.
And the father sees it too.
And immediately he puts his fishing rod down. He knows this isn't right.
The panic wasn't slow, was it?
No, it was instant. The father just screams, "Oh my God," as the circle of lights abruptly breaks apart.
And they just shoot off in different directions.
A maneuver that just laughs at inertia. The whole structure is gone in a blink.
But the real horror here is what happens next. On the ground.
Absolutely. The aftermath is the real trauma. The father has this complete personality shift. He sprints past his own kids, leaves all the fishing gear behind.
And tells them to get inside and to never ever talk about it again.
For years, he was silent on it. And the final consequence of that one night, they sold the family cabin. The place was tainted.
It shattered his entire sense of safety. His role as the dad who explains the world to his kids was just gone. The sky wasn't safe anymore, so the cabin wasn't safe anymore.
So we've seen atmospheric distortion. Now let's move to events with real physical violence, massive energy, but with none of the expected evidence left behind.
The Rollins Pass Sheep Massacre. 1977. This one is brutal.
It is. So you had this group of backpackers. They're up high, almost 12,000 feet. The entire sky suddenly lights up like it's daytime.
And they see a huge fireball falling from the sky.
But the key detail is that it's falling slowly. It's not ripping through the atmosphere like a meteor. It goes down behind a ridge.
Then a massive sonic boom, right? And a shockwave that actually shakes the ground they're standing on.
Yeah, physical shockwave.
Yeah.
So naturally they're thinking meteor impact. Or maybe a small plane crash.
So they hike over there the next morning.
And what they find is this. It's a paradox. They find dozens of bighorn sheep that have been violently killed.
Some are intact, but others are just torn apart. Limbs, bones scattered everywhere.
It's the scene of a massive explosion.
But there's no evidence of an explosion.
Exactly. That's the horror twist. They search for over an hour. There is no impact crater, no debris, no fire, not even a scorch mark. The ground is completely undisturbed.
So how? How does something with enough energy to obliterate a herd of large animals leave zero trace on the environment? That's where my brain hits a wall.
It's the central question. If it was kinetic, there'd be a crater. If it was thermal, there'd be a fire. The total lack of evidence forces you to consider something way outside our conventional understanding.
You mean like a weapon?
Something like that. A form of focused, non-conventional energy. Maybe a sonic pulse that only affects biological tissue. Or a localized implosion that leaves the dirt and rocks untouched. The precision is as terrifying as the power.
And then we have a really strange modern connection to this idea, the Duluth waving man.
Yeah, this one is bizarre. The witness knew this entity from his childhood. A dark, featureless figure that would just appear on the side of the road.
Like an omen.
Exactly. It always showed up right before some family trauma or a big trip, but it had stopped appearing when he was a teenager.
Until September 2024.
Right. First, he sees a physical event. An incredible fireball streaks across the sky, kind of fizzles out, but a dark chunk of it keeps falling and seems to hit the ground nearby.
So a definite impact.
A definite physical event. And then what happens?
The very next night, he's driving, and there it is, the waving man.
Yeah.
On the roadside, just casually raising its arm in that same old wave.
The omen is back, immediately following a violent atmospheric event.
But couldn't that just be a coincidence? I mean, fireballs can be meteors, and this is a recurring psychological thing for him.
You could argue that, but the timing, the synchronicity, is just too perfect to ignore.
So what are you suggesting?
It implies a direct link. Either the physical object falling from the sky somehow brought the entity with it, or the event was a kind of signal, a flare that triggered the entity's return to its old post. It suggests these psychological figures might be tethered to these big physical violations of our reality. So if that first theme was about the world outside breaking, this next one is about the world inside breaking. The mind, memory, our closest relationships.
This is the intimate invasion.
Yes. Targeted contact, compulsion, surveillance, and the psychological damage that comes with it.
Let's start with Logan, a 13-year-old kid, home alone with his German Shepherd, Millie.
And the pattern is there right away. The physical environment destabilizes first.
Right, the power flickers, the TV dies, and he sees a dark, plane-like thing drop low in the trees just outside.
That electromagnetic interference right before contact, that's a classic sign. The stage is being set for the personal intrusion.
He goes back inside, he's freaked out, and then the real attack begins.
He hears his name.
3 times, clear as a bell, coming from the back deck. He thinks it's his older brother playing a prank.
But the brother's car isn't there. And the dog, Millie, is just standing there, laser focused on the back door.
And the attack wasn't physical, it was purely in his head.
Purely suggestive. He describes this overwhelming, almost physical urgency, a wave of compulsion telling him to open the door.
He said it was like the feeling of needing to escape a burning house.
But here's the deeply manipulative part. He was, in his words, convinced that whoever was calling my name was trying to help me.
The lure was disguised as a rescue.
That's the genius of it. It bypasses your self-preservation instinct by convincing you it is your self-preservation instinct.
So he's walking to the door, his hand is on the handle, he's about to just walk out into the dark.
And it wasn't his own reason that saved him, it was the dog. Millie, the normally friendly German Shepherd, just plants herself in front of him, barking, growling at the door like she's never done before, and then she sits on his feet with all her weight.
Pinning him down.
And breaking the trance.
So what are we supposed to take from that? The entity could bypass the house's security, but it couldn't bypass the dog?
It seems that way. It used pure psychological warfare, and the only thing that stopped this kid from walking out into who knows what was the instinctual, unconditional loyalty of his pet. That makes you wonder, how many people don't have a Millie to snap them out of it?
Okay, from compulsion to full-on surveillance.
Right.
The van life fire pit story. Kate in Arizona.
This one has a very clear 3-act structure.
First, the environmental signals. She sees 3 lights dancing in a perfect triangle. Then she hears these loud, quick whale sounds and gets hit with these blue light pulses that wake her up.
So the sensory shock comes first. Then she falls back asleep, and that's when the intrusion happens.
The dream interrogation.
Yes. She dreams her mother, who is always very supportive, comes to visit her by the campfire. Seems totally normal at first.
But then the questions start.
And they're not normal motherly questions. They're weirdly specific, critical, clinical even.
She asks her why people in general feel that they need to get away from other people and responsibilities.
It's not a conversation, it's data collection about human motivation, about isolation. And the entity is using the trusted image of her mother as a mask to get past her defenses.
But the truly creepy part is the proof.
The proof. She wakes up the next morning, and in the fire pit that she absolutely did not use,
there are fresh ashes and half-burned logs.
The dream wasn't just a dream. The interrogation was a real physical event. It left evidence.
So the pattern is physical manifestation, the lights and sounds, which leads to a psychological intrusion, the dream, which then leaves behind physical proof.
It's a terrifyingly clean process.
This idea of monitoring gets even sadder with the Harrisburg abductee story, the friend with the sleep mask.
Right. This story is it's profoundly tragic. For years, the witness would see his friend, who always wore a sleep mask, having these long, coherent conversations in his sleep.
Not just mumbling.
No, full conversations with what he called his alternate family from outside the solar system.
And the content was always the same.
It was like a checklist, a quiz about his school, his friends, his parents, and this is the chilling part. Oddly personal details about his physical health.
Right. His physical health, that's not just casual surveillance. That sounds like long-term biological tracking.
That's exactly what it sounds like. This wasn't just a friendly check-in. This was continuous high-level data collection. He was compelled to report on his own life, his own biology, every time they called.
And the consequence of knowing this,
Yeah.
it was devastating.
Utterly. Years later, the witness finally brings it up, and the friend just flips.
A Jekyll and Hyde personality shift.
He becomes nervous, defensive, and starts aggressively grilling the witness on exactly what he heard.
And their lifelong friendship?
Over, instantly, permanently. And what's more, the friend's parents acted weird too, rushing the witness out of the house. The whole family was in on it, guarding this secret.
So the knowledge itself becomes the trauma. It severs this core human bond.
The isolation is the point.
We see one last really chilling example of this surveillance with a story about the neighbor Edith in Boulder.
This one is just pure visual horror. The witness, on 3 separate occasions, sees her elderly neighbor, Edith, standing paralyzed at her glass door.
And she's arguing with something.
Arguing and gesturing wildly at a dark, distorted, non-human figure that's on the patio on the other side of the glass.
Just watching that would be terrifying enough.
But the climax is when the surveillance flips. In the middle of this silent argument, Edith, who had seemed completely unaware of being watched, instantly snaps her head around.
And looks directly at the witness, across the yard.
And the witness described this profound, humiliating feeling of being caught, as if, in her words, something had told her to do it.
The observer suddenly became the observed.
The non-human entity transferred its awareness. It acknowledged the witness through Edith.
And Edith died 2 nights later, a heart attack.
The witness is convinced she was talking to something that last night, and that final stare was the moment of transfer, a moment of true non-human recognition.
Okay, this brings us to probably the most profound violation in this theme. Actual biological interference.
The Harrisburg mother's journals.
Yeah. The backstory here is just heartbreaking. The mother had been diagnosed as infertile. She was crushed. A child was all she wanted.
Medical science had told her it was impossible.
So in her journal, from a year before the witness was even born, she describes this event. Waking up to a blinding light, feeling paralyzed.
Seeing strange people.
And being taken outside for some kind of experience.
Yeah.
She said it wasn't painful, just observational. But she couldn't tell if it was a dream or if it was real.
And then about a month later,
the miracle. She becomes pregnant with the witness. She called him her little miracle his whole life.
And here's where it gets really fascinating. The legacy of that event in the witness himself.
Right. He grows up with this lifelong lack of fear of heights, an intense, almost addictive fascination with deep space, and this deep recurring feeling that he doesn't quite belong here.
These psychological markers align almost perfectly with this potential non-human origin story.
So this changes the game entirely. This isn't just watching anymore. This is active biological intervention.
It's management. The witness's very existence seems to be the result of a deliberate, targeted action to override a biological impossibility for a specific purpose.
Okay, so the next theme is about the physical toll. How these encounters mess with the human body itself. Gravity, time, even where you are in a room.
This is where we see technology that can just override our basic physiology.
Let's start with the Ronan, Montana replay. This guy is under his truck, changing a fuel filter.
And the first warning sign is his dog, Duke. Barks like crazy and then just flees.
The natural alarm system is gone. The human is left alone and vulnerable.
And then the physical attack starts. He sees a bright red glow, feels this intense heat, and then the real horror kicks in.
His body suddenly weighs 1,000 pounds.
He says gravity got stronger and it was pulling me into the ground. He can't move his arms or his legs. He hears a jackhammer sound and then nothing. He blacks out.
When he wakes up, he's 5 feet away from the truck.
Yeah.
Facing the other direction. And he has no memory of the light or the heat. He's completely disoriented.
Let's just talk about that for a second. Localized enhanced gravity. To feel like you weigh 1,000 pounds means you're being subjected to a targeted gravity field.
That's sci-fi stuff.
It is. It's the kind of technology that could immobilize anything or anyone without ever touching them. The physics involved are staggering. It's the perfect restraint.
But the story doesn't end there. That night, the memory comes back to him. Not as a memory, but as what he called a vivid replay.
More real than being awake, he's sitting in a chair and he's communicating with something, but not with words.
The knowledge is just put directly into his mind.
And the message he gets is that we are rare and important, and that these beings cared about us, like we were something precious and irreplaceable.
So this brutal physical violation leads to this profound metaphysical lesson about the value of humanity.
A very complex outcome. The trauma led to a kind of enlightenment.
We see a similar thing, a sort of temporal shutdown in the Arkansas freeze frame.
Right. This witness is just on his couch, and he hears and feels this static buzzing, a low vibration going through the house.
He looks out his window, and his neighbors, Jeff and Donna, are just frozen mid-argument in their front yard.
And they're lit up by this intense, tightly focused spotlight. Like a spotlight on a concert stage, he said.
A perfect little bubble of captured time.
For a few seconds, then the light just clicks off and the neighbors are gone. The street is silent.
And later, Jeff and Donna have no memory of it. They don't even remember being outside.
It suggests a targeted, temporary cognitive gap, a flash data collection. Paralyze, illuminate, observe, erase.
Okay, this next one. The guest room vortex is chilling because it's not a one-time thing. It's tied to a place.
And it repeats. 3 male family members, the witness, his brother, his nephew, all have the exact same experience in the same spare room, years apart.
That moves it beyond a personal delusion. The room itself is the problem.
It acts like a magnet, a localized portal.
And the sequence is always identical.
Flashing green and blue lights outside the window.
Yeah.
Then full body paralysis. And then this horrifying sensation of being
Ripped out of the bed and pulled from the house.
aggressively. It's not a gentle floating, it's a violent extraction. The nephew was traumatized because he said the figure was trying to take him somewhere he didn't want to go.
And the brother remembered screaming for his parents as he was pulled through the house, but they didn't react.
That's a critical detail. Selective perception, a cognitive firewall. It means your screams for help are literally unheard. The invasion isolates you completely.
And then there's the tree.
The environmental link. This ancient, massive oak tree that stood right outside that window for generations. After the last event, it just mysteriously died.
A coincidence? Or did the portal, whatever was happening in that room, just drain the life out of it?
It adds this chilling note of environmental damage, a physical scar left on the landscape.
The last one in this theme is maybe the most existentially terrifying. The lightning strike. Total bodily erasure.
The onset was just overwhelming. Static in his chest, time slowing down to a crawl. His friends are frozen like a photograph.
An
Then,
explosive blinding flash. He feels like he's been hit by a truck, and suddenly he's just suspended in an endless black void.
but he's not alone. He senses a presence, a non-menacing one, that communicates they are there to watch us.
And then 3 giant high-definition screens appear.
Like a drone feed from above the park. On the middle screen, he can see his 5 friends lying motionless on the ground where the lightning hit.
So it's like an out-of-body experience,
Yeah.
but with a horrifying twist.
The chilling revelation, he's looking at the screens, at the perfect image of the scene, and his own body isn't there.
What?
His friends are all there, exactly as they fell, but his body is just gone from the picture.
Should I show you where it was?
That's the question. This wasn't a near-death experience where you see your own body below. This suggests his consciousness was completely removed, projected outside of his physical form, using the massive energy of the lightning strike as a trigger,
An instant, high-energy extraction of consciousness itself.
leaving the physical vessel somewhere else entirely.
So after the light is gone, the paralysis wears off. The encounter is over, but the consequences are just beginning.
Yes. Our final theme is the aftermath, the legacy, the suppressed memories, the broken realities, and the permanent changes these events force on people.
The Washington farm kid story is a perfect example of memory erasure. As an adult, his parents tell him this hidden truth about his childhood.
After an early encounter involving a boy named Ryan, he'd apparently been sent to a counselor, not just for bad dreams, but because he was sneaking out at night.
To meet Ryan and his brothers, who, by the way, all looked identical.
Right. He was having these adventures, wrestling in the hayfield, a whole period of continuous active interaction that, as an adult, he'd completely forgotten, wiped clean.
His parents just said, the therapy must have worked.
And that is such a horrifying statement in this context. The therapy didn't cure a childhood fantasy. It successfully suppressed the conscious memory of ongoing interaction with non-human entities.
So the solution wasn't to stop the visits. It was to wall off a huge part of his own life from himself.
It's a fundamental violation of your own history. He has this massive black hole in his autobiography.
And then you had the Cape Cod warning, where a child's memory, even fragmented, can just induce pure terror in an adult.
This little 6-year-old girl sees lights, interacts with another little girl through a glass door, which is likely an entity using mimicry.
And then she tells her mother, very calmly.
The girl said she was going to come back and that they wanted to take both of us.
And the mother's reaction is just instant fear. She flees the room. The child isn't scared, but the mother understands the threat completely.
It's that transfer of realized danger, and her fear was validated. A neighbor later confirmed seeing strange lights over the water that same night.
For some people, though, the experience is so shocking, it breaks their whole life.
It forces a catastrophic pivot.
Look at the witness from the San Mateo levitation. This guy is a normal businessman working late, and he sees a man just levitating 6 feet in the air in the middle of an intersection.
A complete shattering of Newtonian physics in the most mundane setting imaginable.
And then, as he drives through, he looks up and sees it. A massive, glowing circle above the fog, with 6 dark figures silhouetted against it.
An undeniable physical spectacle.
And his reaction was extreme. He was convinced the rapture was happening. He develops a severe phobia of being alone at the office.
So crippling that he had to move his entire business 4 months later, just to be around more people.
The knowledge ruined him. It fundamentally broke his reality, and he was left with this impossible question. What am I supposed to do with that?
How do you integrate that level of impossibility into your daily life? For him, the answer was, you don't, you run.
But not all of these transformations are negative, which is what's so interesting. Cassidy's story, from the A-frame in Vermont.
A remarkable counterpoint.
She's lured outside by a voice that sounds like her pet rabbit. She's confronted by 3 child-sized figures.
But her upbringing was unique. She was taught to love and respect all living creatures. So for her, this experience was not scary.
Even when one of them reached out to her, and it peeled back what looked like a black contact lens.
To reveal this breathtakingly beautiful large blue eye.
And that moment, for her, wasn't a violation, it was a gift.
She said it gave her an open door in my mind. She spent the rest of her life totally aware and amazed by the things we can't explain. She sees it as something that made her life richer.
So for her, the encounter was a validation of her worldview. Where the businessman in San Mateo was destroyed by the fear of the unknown, she was elevated by her love for it.
It really shows how much the outcome depends on the individual's own framework for reality.
So we've gone through all these accounts, and a pretty clear, pretty chilling pattern starts to emerge.
It's not random. These are focused, deliberate, and often deeply invasive events.
We've seen the themes: the violation of physics, the intimate invasion of the mind, the direct physical suppression of the body, and this lasting psychological shadow it leaves.
And through it all, there's this profound sense of isolation for the witnesses.
Like the man who lost his best friend just for asking about the sleep talking.
Or the family silenced by their own father after one night of seeing the impossible. The knowledge itself becomes this terrible, isolating burden. You're forced to live in a world where you know the rules can be broken.
What really stands out to me across all of this is the potential motive. We heard it a few times today from Ronan, Montana, the lightning strike, the Harrisburg friend. This idea that humans are considered rare and important.
And that these beings are watching us, sometimes even protecting us. It suggests a kind of scientific preservationist role, like we're an endangered species being monitored.
Right, but if they're watching us like an endangered species, that implies non-intervention.
And we have direct evidence that that's not always the case. The Harrisburg mother story. That's not watching. That is active biological management to achieve a specific outcome, the birth of the witness.
That's not just observation, that's intervention.
If we really are considered that precious, that rare, by entities who can manipulate time and gravity and biology, then the ultimate chilling thought isn't just that they're watching.
It's that they might be actively managing us, manipulating our genetics, our trajectory, to preserve the version of the species they want.
The line between watching and gardening is incredibly thin, and the implication from these stories is that for some people, that line has